wrote together with me this paper. As Vida said, we are dealing with heritage education. Why? Well, because ECCOM is an association which carries out research and training activities in the field of cultural heritage, considered as both tangible and intangible heritage. And we've been dealing in the last 25 years with the topic of the value of heritage in contemporary society, and namely the value of heritage education as a tool to develop and foster and promote new competencies. I need to talk about a sort of background before getting into the presentation of the case studies that I've chosen as good practices example for this article and for this presentation. So the background, actually, it is a European framework about the role of heritage to foster and promote social cohesion, social inclusion, and citizenship, active citizenship. There are some documents here listed for you, and in the paper you will find all the bibliographical references. I have chosen for this presentation just 4 of them, well, 4 points mainly. The first one is about the new agenda for culture, which was published by the European Union in 2018, which recommends the improvement of creativity and in general of the creative sectors, not only because they have a value in themselves, but also because they can foster innovation. And it's not innovation, it's not intended here as technological innovation, but mainly as social innovation, social change. So heritage, creativity, and the creative sectors as tools to improve social innovation. Then we have another important document, which is the European Guidelines for the 21st Century, which states quite clearly the need to equip students with basic competencies, but also with transversal ones, and mainly with soft competencies, which are creativity, creative and critical thinking, affective skills, emotional skills, and so on and so forth. In general, my third point here states that the role of cultural heritage in creating peaceful and increasing and inclusive societies through knowledge, citizenship, and sustainable development is quite clearly affirmed at European level by many other documents and political initiatives, such as, for example, the European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018. And last but not least, heritage education. Cultural heritage is recognized as a means to trigger motivation, interest, engagement, and also to provide, to foster civic, social, and ethical responsibility in lifelong learning processes. What do we mean by lifelong learning processes? We all know that we mean formal, informal, and non-formal educational processes. And when we talk about non-formal educational context, we mean also heritage institutions, heritage sites, heritage locations, let's say, where informal, lifelong learning educational processes can happen. So having said that, let's go to 3 best practices, good practices, that I have selected to tell you about our activities with heritage and with the use of a tool, which is digital storytelling. We have been combining, as ECCOM, the use of storytelling, which is, as you all know, a very powerful autobiographical tool to engage people in telling personal stories and in finding personal relationship with the context around them, and also with cultural heritage, we use it in combination with digital tool. And that's exactly what digital storytelling is. It's a short story realized through digital means, such a video, in which people combine texts, photos, videos, and their own voices recorded to tell the story. In these examples that I have selected for you, the stories told were about 3 places in Italy in which heritage plays and will play in the future a very important role. The first experience was a project called Green Roots. Green Roots was funded by the Fondazione Con il Sud, and it was realized in Taranto. Taranto is a city in the south of Italy, in the region Puglia, which has a great, enormous problem of pollution and environmental problem in general, and health problem connected to these environmental issues. In Taranto, we worked with students. In all the 3 cases I'm presenting to you today, we have been working with digital storytelling used by secondary school students. So we have been working with them in a participative and creative process in order to let them imagine, let them think about sustainable scenarios for their own city, using cultural heritage as a trigger for their own personal stories. And of course, we also worked with artists, in this case, photographers, who helped the students in finding ways of representing the cities through photographs taken by the students themselves in cooperation with these professional photographers. The second example is Live Museums, Live Change, which was funded by Lazio region. It was based in Rome, and it took place in a very famous archaeological area, which is mainly an area used by tourists and not by Roman citizens. Mercati di Traiano, in the area of the Imperial Fora. In this case, again, we worked with artists, performers mainly, performers and musicians, together with schools, with school children, students, actually not children, who developed their own personal stories using, again, digital storytelling, about their relationship with that place, which quite incredibly was unknown to most of them, because, as I said, it's an area which is not considered as part of Roman citizens' heritage, but mainly as a touristic venue used for touristic exploitation. The third example was in Sardinia region, in Monteprama, and again we were dealing with an archaeological heritage made of very interesting statues dating back to the Neolithic age, which was again completely unknown to these students. And through digital storytelling, they sort of recreated a link with this tradition of these Neolithic statues, and they also imagined a way in which the past could be reconnected with the present. Let's go to my, let's say, last point, which is about the evaluation of all these activities and the results that we achieved by realizing these storytelling workshops with the students in terms of development of their competencies, soft competencies, as I said at the beginning. First of all, let me tell you that we used as evaluation tools, obviously, interviews with teachers and students, focus groups, mainly carried out with the students themselves, and we analyzed the stories so that the products of the workshops, which were the digital stories, have been analyzed against criteria such as personal engagement, cultural engagement, and social engagement, since the workshop was a collective endeavor and even the stories were shared among the students. As I said, students and teachers were involved in this evaluation activity, and the main, let's say, framework in terms of methodology that we used for this evaluation was the phenomenographic evaluation, meaning that we are interested in trying to assess the change that these activities can lead to. So we are trying to always evaluate the impact they have on the participants and the change that they lead to. And actually, we discovered that there has been a strengthening of their soft skills. There's been a consistent widening of their horizon, both at personal, social, and I would say collective level, through these transdisciplinary approaches, which involved also artists, as I said, and not only heritage professionals. We strongly recommend in our activity that curricula should include also this multi-perspective approach, transversal approach, because the benefits are quite evident. But for sure, we also recognize that more research is needed in order to really effectively measure the impact and the educational power of cultural heritage and heritage education through digital storytelling or through other means. The point is that heritage has this strong power in fostering new competences, but we need more evidence. Sometimes the evidence that we gather is not enough to really provide a radical change, or well, if not radical, an effective change in school curricula, for example. If you have questions or comments, obviously I'm here at your complete disposal. And well, this is my email address if you wish to get in touch with me later on. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Cristina. The presentation was interesting and really relevant to 21st century. Okay, as I see, we have the question. A participant would like to ask how are protected the innovations in the area of cultural heritage in Italy, as CR or different way? You can see the question in the public.
Yes, I can see, and thank you, Maria, for the question. I just I'm not sure I do understand. What do you mean, how are the innovations protected?
Dear Cristina, you have mentioned in your presentation two types of innovations in area of cultural heritage. You have mentioned organizational and technological innovations. That's why my first question to you is the following. They are my special area of interest, intellectual property right.
Okay.
My first question is, how is protected technological innovation in Italy? Only as copyright protection, or there are different ways? And second question is that regarding your presentation, how is protected and how can be reach the balance, the rights, intellectual property rights between authors and producers in process of digitalization of cultural heritage?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, this is a very interesting topic, and we could talk about it for summers, I guess. But let's say, yes, the debate is very hot at the moment in Italy about cultural rights and digitization. And that's why, for example, the digitization of the works of art within museums is not yet a common practice. I would say it's not yet a practice in Italy, because there is this burning issue of the protection of cultural rights. From our point of view, when we work with digitization, for example, of personal contributions, of personal stories, such as the experiences I have presented today, we always recognize the ownership of the stories, which is of the authors of the story. So there is a very strong policy from our side in recognizing their own intellectual property, and they sort of allow, as authors, the use of these digital stories from the cultural heritage institutions, but it must be them who allow the institution to use their own stories. So we do strongly recognize the ownership of the digital products that we realize, even though they are realized in museums or in cultural heritage sites. So the property and the ownership is always in the hands of the authors.
Thank you, Cristina, for the answer, and thank you, Maria, for the question.
Thank you, all of you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I also had questions, but due to time limitation, probably it would be better to go to the next presenter. So thank you, Cristina, a lot for your presentation, and hopefully next year we will see face-to-face in